Hello and welcome to the Munro Method Clancast. I am Jason Munro. This is episode 181. I'm going to ask you a favour, as I do infrequently. Can you go into wherever you are listening to this podcast episode right now, go into the programme, find out where you rate it, and can you give it a rating? Pretty please. I'm not going to say rate it 5 stars because that's entirely up to you. But what I am going to say is you probably don't want to be the first person who doesn't rate it 5 stars. Now remember, this is not a vanity metric. Like, I don't care what the rating of the... I mean, I do care, but it's not a big deal. The thing that I'm interested in, if you work with me, you'll know that I'm a numbers man. I'm a data man. And when I look at the podcast, I can see it like starting to break into rankings. So it just makes me wonder, like, if this gets enough reviews, will it get pushed higher into rankings? And will, if somebody goes into top 10 weight loss podcasts or mindset podcasts or something like that, will I actually get in there one day? And will the podcast actually get discovered beyond, the 180, 200 people that already know me and listen to it? That's what I think about. Okay, and the other thing is, now listen, this is mega. I'm sitting on it right now, right? If I go to stats on Buzzsprout where I host this, and if I go to locations, and if I go to all episodes, this absolutely blew my mind. I can't remember what the number was. I was looking at like a 2025 review, and it shows me all the countries, I think there's 92 countries that this podcast has been listened to in. Who is listening to this in Brazil, South Africa, India, New Zealand, Iraq, Turkey, Greece, Bangladesh, Argentina, Denmark, Kenya, Pakistan, Colombia, Venezuela, Chile, Japan? Who are you people? If you are someone who is listening to this in what I would consider to be an unusual country, meaning that if I look at the top 5 countries, UK, obviously, 84% of people listening. Sorry, there's 98 countries or territories that it's been listened to. UK is obviously in the lead. United States is after that. Ireland is after that. Then it's Australia. Then it's Germany. And then it just goes through like places I can't imagine why people are listening. So if you are from one of these unusual places, could you just drop me a DM on Instagram? Just... like, especially like I said, who's listening to this in Bangladesh and Pakistan and Uzbekistan and Ukraine and Lithuania and Peru and Egypt? This blows my mind. It's not a massive amount of downloads, but the fact is that someone in those countries has listened to this at some point. Anyway, welcome to episode 181. I felt compelled to jump on here because every now and again I write something in a caption or in an email and I go, oof, that's a good one. And the thing on this occasion is I wrote down, yo-yo dieting is a slow motion way to waste decades of your life. Something that I am thinking about and talking about more and more recently is I have this thing that I say to clients a lot now, which is I wish that I could take you by the hand. So let's imagine you and I are standing face to face, right? And I reach out and I take your left hand and my right hand and I get you to come and stand beside me, okay? And I'll look at you and say, right, I want you to take 5 big, massive steps backwards with me, okay? 5 steps back. Now what I want you to do is take a look at your life laid out in front of us. Now that you're not in it, now that you're not in every food choice, now that you're not in every scale weight, now that you're not thinking about what you did yesterday and thinking about what you're doing today and thinking about what you're doing tomorrow, you have now taken a giant step back with me and you are looking at your life, your progress as a whole. I want you to be able to see, and this came off the back of a conversation that I had with someone recently who was talking about like, and everybody does this. We all have these beliefs around compensatory behaviours, and I used to do this once upon a time where, I went for a big walk today, I can eat lots tonight. Or I've went to the gym today, that means I can have a takeaway. Or even the other way around, I want to have a takeaway tonight, but I feel quite bad about it. I'm going to go to the gym so that I can feel better. Or I didn't have breakfast, or I didn't have lunch, which means I can have even more for dinner and something afterwards. When you're in those moments and you're doing those things, they seem like the most logical thing in the world, right? Oh, I didn't eat very much there, I can eat more. Or I was super active, I can eat more. And this just comes back to thinking of food in quantitative terms. But you are so caught up in that day-to-day stuff that you don't realise that that's the problem. If you are 15 stone, the whole, oh, I skipped a meal, I can eat more, or I've exercised, I can eat more, that is a part of the reason that you are 15 stone. It is not doing anything to offset your weight. You know, these rules and restrictions and compensatory behaviours that we have, we think that they're doing something to our weight, or even things like, you know, if I have something to eat, if I just go out and go for a big walk, then that's going to balance it out. We do all of this stuff thinking that it's having an effect, thinking that it's having a positive impact, thinking that we are somehow positively influencing our weight because we're compensating elsewhere. And it's just not the case at all, because your weight is where it is partly because of all that shit that you're doing. These compensatory behaviours are actually adding weight on. Here's the thing that many people don't understand, right? Everybody who is overweight could do with not eating more often, which means that if you do skip a meal, awesome. You don't have to make up for it. You don't have to eat more. You don't have to double the size of your dinner because you didn't eat lunch. A meal has been removed, something that has been missing from your whole life, and that's it. That's the end of the story. That day then means that I had breakfast, I had dinner, I didn't have a lunch, all the other meals were the same, and the world kept spinning. But the problem is that you see that as a pass, as an invitation to compensate elsewhere. And so these moments that should be helping bring your weight down to and keep it at a manageable level, they're being overridden because you see them as permission to then make a change to the way that you eat, rather than, well, actually, this is part of what long-term weight maintenance is. It's knowing that during the week, I might miss breakfast because I'm super busy with work, and I might do that 2 or 3 times. But that doesn't matter, because when it gets to the weekend and I go out for dinner, or I have a takeaway, or I do whatever, that's going to balance itself out. This is when we have this is when we have a balanced diet. This is when we have weight maintenance, when we're playing into the balance. Weight maintenance is not, I'm going to eat 2,200 calories every single day and my weight's going to stay the same every single day. Weight maintenance is being able to lean into the times during the week when you're at work or when you're more focused, where you don't really think about food. Your hunger can't get through because you're quite focused on something else, and you do miss a breakfast, or maybe you miss a lunch. And then, it's not until closer to dinner time you go, Christ, I'm hungry. Well, no wonder I missed breakfast. Oh, well. And that's the end of it. The problem is that Monday to Friday, we miss meals and we make up for it. And then when it gets to the weekend, we then overeat. So we're never creating the conditions where, if we bring it back to finances, right? There is no point during the week where we save money to compensate for the extra money, or not compensate, but to balance out with the extra money we're going to spend at the weekend. So, if you had £10 to spend every single day, and during the week, you only spend £5 or £6 or £4 and then £5 another day. And at the weekend, you end up with £100 to spend instead of just £20. I didn't do the maths here, so don't come at me if that didn't pan out. But you get the idea. Whereas if you get to the end of the day every day and go, oh, I've got £4 left to spend, I better buy something. Oh, I've got £6 left to spend, I better buy something. Then it comes to the weekend when you need more money and all you've got is £20. This is what it's like when it comes to your body and your health and your weight and your eating. You've done so much unnecessary eating during the week that any unnecessary eating or even any necessary eating you want to do at the weekend. Maybe you want to have a higher calorie meal, a takeaway, a meal out, some drinks, whatever. It's no longer playing into the balance. It's an extra bolt on. So, Christ, how did I start this off again? Yeah. I posted a thing on Instagram this morning, right? And it was an image that said, let me get it up so I can see it. At the top, it says, your Slimming World journey or your SW journey, right? And there are 4 boxes. And in each of the boxes, that one, in each of the boxes, so the first box says your Slimming World journey in days, and it shows you a little spiky graph gently going down. And then the next box says in months, and it shows you a spiky graph that's coming down a bit quicker. So this is meant to reflect your weight. And then I've got in years, which is a perfectly straight line because over the years you're not getting anywhere. You're losing it and putting it back on again. And the final box is in decades, and the line is continually going up. And this is what I mean about taking those 5 big steps back from your progress and taking a look at it as a whole. All of the things that you do related to your weight, they're not helping, because the vast majority of you listening to this right now are heavier today than you were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, when you set foot in your first Weight Watchers meeting or your first Slimming World meeting or when you started your first diet. Now, yes, pregnancy and families and yes, things have happened along the way that would have contributed to your weight, but you have probably dieted every single year since then. And what has the result of that been? You are dieting your way into a bigger body. And again, this is where we have to take those 5 big steps back and see it for what it is. Because you know, I say this to people when I'm talking to them at check-ins. I know that you're the one that has to step on the scales and look at the number, and I'm the guy who every couple of weeks looks at 2 numbers. What was your lowest weight last time? What was your lowest weight this time? Because those are the only ones that matter. But I'm not the one having to deal with the day-to-day. But that means it's easier for me to look at the bigger picture than it is for you, because you are getting caught up in the day-to-day. You're too busy thinking about, what am I going to eat next? What did I eat yesterday? What did I do this weekend? What am I going to do next weekend? You're too close to these individual moments that you're messing around. What is it people say? It's an American term, but it's like you're playing checkers, we're playing chess. Oh God, what do people call checkers? In Scotland, we call it drafts. I wonder if that's also an English term. Anyway, the point is, you're pissing around with the unimportant stuff, and it's drawing your attention away from the bigger picture. You know, if you have dieted for the last 20 years and your weight is still not lower than it was 20 years ago, when do you reach the point where you go, actually, something's not quite going right here? Like, when does it click? When do you have your light bulb moment where you finally look at it and say, okay, can somebody please explain to me why I have been dieting for 20 years, why I have lost hundreds of pounds, and I'm not any lighter right now? Why has that happened? This is the point that I need to try and help people get to. Like I've said this before, I yo-yo dieted for 10 years, and I consider myself incredibly lucky that is all it went on for, and it didn't last for longer. Because I was in there for 10 years. I lost and gained the same 2.5, 3 stone, whatever it was, over and over and over again. I posted a thing on Instagram not long ago, actually. I said I lost 350 pounds and I was still overweight. What I meant by that was, over 10 years, I kept losing the same weight and putting it back on. And that's the thing, you know, you have lost hundreds of pounds. Hundreds. And yet, your weight will still be the same as it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, or higher. How is it that we can lose these hundreds of pounds but still not be any further forward? It's because we keep going in the opposite direction. So today, I need you to take those 5 big, massive steps back from yourself, back from your life, back from each day, back from each week, back from all the things that you're doing. Everything that you think that you are doing in an effort to change your weight, in an effort to compensate or offset the crash diets you do before you go away and switch into holiday mode, the restriction you put yourself during the week to compensate for the weekends, whether you do that ahead of the weekend or after the weekend, the exercise you're doing to try and burn off the food that you've eaten, or the exercise you're doing ahead of the food that you're going to eat. All these things that you think are helping you, you need to realize they're not. You need to realize they're a part of the problem. These are why you are getting bigger or your weight's not coming down. Think of it this way. Whatever weight it is that you are right now, absolutely everything that you are doing is contributing to that. It's not helping it. It's not changing it. It's not making it go down. It's part of the reason it is where it is. And it's why these things have to change. So, I know it's difficult when you're the one that's so close to your own weight, to your own progress, the numbers, the weight, you've got more of an emotional connection to them, which is why it can be so valuable to have a nutritionist in your corner to help you take those 5 big steps back and show you, look at all of this. You look at all of those things that you've done over the last 10 years. That's why you were 13 stone 10 years ago. You've lost 3 stone every year since then. You've lost 30 stone. But today, you're 14 stone. You're a stone heavier. It's so challenging to help people see that trap that they're in. But we show up every day and we try and do it anyway, because every day that I talk about this stuff, every time we bring it up, one person gets helped. One person has that moment where they go, do you know what? You're right. I'm 40 years old. I've been dieting since my mum took me to Weight Watchers at 13. And obviously you're going to be heavier than you were at 13, but I have consistently gained weight for the last 20 plus years, and I'm now heavier than ever, even though I've dieted the entire time. Can somebody help me make that make sense? And, people have to go through that realization so that they can have that moment where they go, right, that's it. No more of the dieting shit. I'm done with that. How do I solve this once and for all so that the next 30, 40 years of my life don't look like the last 20? Anyway, enough from me today. Until next time.